Who are you, Mark?
Woody presents 4Q. I like stuff. Sweet.
4Q, I like stuff indeed. I'm David, otherwise known as Fingermouse for the Black Lakes fans out there.
All two. I'm Marty. Woody's World of Wonders.
And who do we have here?
My name is Ronan Fitzgerald, coming at you live from New York at Saturday night.
It's Saturday Night Live.
I thought we'd kick things off. I just want to play you two a piece of music to help you just think about what we're going to talk about. Just bear with me. You know what's coming.
Is it Huey Lewis? ZZ Top?
So if I play this...
I think because I've come over and I'm much more into music now than I was when I was understand just how special the music is and how into it, and a sense of wonder. So yeah, I couldn't tell you when I followed up with the first one, and I don't know.
I love what I first made out leaving school while I was actually applying to come here house at Macro, and I bought myself a video, and I bought myself a video cassette of Top Gun and a video cassette of Back to the Future, and fantastic. It was money well spent.
Yeah.
I watch because they're wonderful.
You still have them?
Yeah, I do down at home, down my mum and dad.
My first memory of Back to the Future, I have a number of them. My first memory of Back to the Future was the month got taken to see the first one, and I remember we lived a couple of houses before with mum and dad, and Paul and I weren't allowed to go because it was a PG. It was like, oh yeah, I don't think they're old enough. So they took the month.
Right, we'll take the child we like.
So they took the month, who was, Mark will, as always, always will remain 6 years older than me. And we were gutted when we got back, and our cousin, they'd also been. And we were like, what? So that was my first memory of Back to the Future. Thankfully, not the last. I remember going to Butlins and seeing Back to the Future in the cinema at Butlins. You know, Butlins used to have a cinema where, because you'd pay to get in, quality holiday making. And I remember seeing Back to the Future there. And so those are my earliest memories. The ones I don't remember seeing Back to the Future the first time, and sadly I've seen it a billion times. The second and third ones I remember seeing so many times. I remember vividly going to see 3 with somebody from school, Craig from school, and Paul and Mark, and sat there going, please don't say the end at the end of the third one. I remember vividly going, please don't let it be the end, and then To Be Concluded came up. So, but yeah, those are my earliest memories, and I loved it. Just amazing. Just my favourite. Until very recently, my favourite trilogy of films. I adore the films. They're right there.
I'm pretty sure what's taken over recently, but back in the day, I've got to admit, you tend to find when you're younger, that number 2 really appeals to you. But as you become older, number 2 slips down the list quite rapidly.
Yeah, because I mean, so Martin, when you got in touch with me and said that you were kind of focusing on ranking the films, that's never a way I've actually looked at them before. I always look at movie series as a whole story. Yeah. And I think especially the case with Back to the Future, because that is such a defined story arc. The 3 movies, like from the outset, it was supposed to be 3 movies. It's not like with a lot of other series where they have the first film and it's like, oh yeah, that did well, we'll tack another one on, we'll tack another one on, we'll tack another sequel on into infinity. This was always very much defined as a trilogy and always defined as 3 films. So I've always kind of considered the story arc. And like, since they've been available on home media and that's how I watch them now, I don't just watch one at a time. I watch the 3 of them.
You'll sit and down through a lot of them. Yes, yeah. And what you notice straight away is, hold on, there's a lot of repeated story here in every single film.
Yeah. So when as said earlier on, I kind of when you asked me to do this, I blitzed through a rewatch of the three of them. So it was after we stopped messaging last night, I watched the first one, then got up this morning, watched the second one, did a bit of pottering about the house, and then watched the third one.
Have we gone down?
Yeah.
Or is it just
when I was
me?
kind of looking at it in terms of ranking,
I'm
yes.
not quite sure what's happening now. Everyone's frozen up. Please don't be my phone.
I can hear you, Mart. I just can't see you moving. I can still see Ronan quite comfortably. Oh, there we go. You're back, mate.
You're back, yeah. And Ronan's frozen up. No, he's back.
I might just be sitting very still.
He was very chilled for a minute. Oh, the pleasures of lockdown quarantine and internet. Sorry, Ronan. So you watched all three over the last 24 hours then?
Pounded them down like a video monster. Nice.
Yeah, it's the first time I've looked at them with the idea of ranking them. Not done that before.
Yeah.
So and go back to what Martin said. Yes, you realise 2 is a little bit below. Like when you're looking at it in terms of just a big story, it's just there. Where you're looking in terms of over
everything,
2 was just
things going on in it. It's marvelous. Like as a kid, that's the one that you eat up. There's so much going on in it. So many little things to catch the eye. The Jaws 19 stuff, the arcade gallery.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots, the hoverboard stuff, the pitbull, everything like that. You eat it all up.
Yes.
But then as you become older and watch it again, you kind of realise 3's maybe where a lot of the meat is, like in those second 2 that were filmed together.
Yeah.
But 1's almost perfect.
Yeah.
From dodgy hand fade.
So this is where I break out quite a nice. I segue into a nice bit of worthless memorabilia. So we're talking the first one. So I have the Save the Clock Tower pamphlet, leaflet flyer that Marty and Jennifer are given, and Jennifer writes on the back, "I love you," and that's the correct phone number. And my brother Paul got me that, and I love that memorabilia.
You got that from the good brother.
Yeah, I mean, ranking the films for me, it's like choosing your favourite child. So.
And that's the point of this we make you.
No,
those videos.
The first one that comes along is really special, right? You know, you treat it well. Second one, you've done it all before. And the third one, you know this is going to be the last one. So, you know, I mean, the first one is really special. And I was sad enough, for years I knew every word of the script. So I could mouth every word of the script along with the film. That's how many times I'd seen it.
I don't think there's anything sad about that at all.
No. And you're right.
I admire it.
And you're right. The second one, isn't it weird how Back to the Future 2 has been held up as this this great thing about seeing into the future? Okay, we haven't had flying cars, but we've had the self-fastening shoes now. They've done obviously we've got to 3D.
They've got about a 50% ratio of getting it right.
Yeah. We've got the the 3D stuff where you've got Hollow Max from from Back to the Future 2, and don't forget there's a scene where Doc has put Jennifer, lay her down in that alleyway, and there's bin bags full of CDs and laser discs and compact discs. Oh, your poster's just fallen off the wall, Mark. There's a
poster. Goddamn print.
there's a scene where Jennifer's laying in an alleyway and there's bin bags full of compact discs and DVDs and stuff, and you think, oh yeah, because we don't use solid state media anymore, we just stream everything.
No. Yeah, throwing it away. Now people have paid good money for that stuff because it is collectible.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
media, but it's collectible.
I think if we talk about
media,
I think if we talk about one, then, and I think we can all three of us agree we love Back to the Future. The first one is magic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid kind of all-round introduction to the world of time travel, and I think the way that time travel was delivered in it was unlike anything that had been done before, and probably anything that's been done since. And the way, I mean, obviously there's weird bits with his ma coming onto him and that, but like,
Yeah, but it's Leah Thompson. We're okay with that.
Two of the biggest trilogies of all time contained incest.
Yeah.
Star Wars, future.
Yeah. I'm happy to park that comment there and just move on.
It's what he does with it. It does a wonderful blend of. We were talking the other day about indie, where they tried to make too many things happen in indie too, in the Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
It tried to be too many things. It tried to be horror, comedy, action. Or Back to the Future did that successfully.
Yeah.
It's action, it's science fiction, it's romantic, it's comedy, and it does it all without forcing anything down your throat at all. It does it really successfully.
Do you know what? I like that you brought up romantic there, because I had to think for a second. It's like, oh yeah, Jennifer was there, and like she's such a side storyline. And I think in a lot of films, Thor springs to mind, and they're kind of shoehorning a woman in and a love story in where there hasn't been anything at all beforehand, and that really, really bothers me in a lot of things. And I think that's probably one of the best things about Back to the Future, probably as a trilogy as a whole, is that they didn't shoehorn in the romantic stuff. It's like, yes, he has a romantic interest, but honestly, it's not as important or cool or fun as time travel.
Yeah. Second one's once again the worst. Flip over from the original actress to Elizabeth Shue and a terrible wig, and then just dump her on a porch and have everything change around her. That's it. That's how it's done.
Yeah,
but
just bet on everything that was set up. Sorry, Mark, go on.
I was going to say, but Leah Thompson in the film is probably I was going to say the third big role, but I suspect that's Biff Tannen, because fantastic. So she's at least the fourth major role in there, and she plays such a big part in there. And she changes from like a 47-year-old back to a 23-year-old, or supposedly playing younger.
Yeah.
Impressive actress at the time.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the first one has everything. It's got a great soundtrack. It's got a great soundtrack with Huey Lewis, and then you go back to the 50s with the rock and roll, which is just fabulous anyway. It's just it's great.
Pop music, I admire its use of pop music actually in that first soundtrack, along with, like you say, the Alan Silvestri stuff. It has a really nice line in current pop music. The Huey Lewis stuff, the 50s rock and roll stuff, which was really big again at the time. Remember all like the Levi's ads and all the stuff going on, the hits that you'd suddenly have from the 50s again. And it really worked, that popular music in along with the classical type soundtrack. Worked great. Didn't really work on any of the others. They didn't bother with it for 2 at all. And then 3, they somehow thought that ZZ Top was really popular music. How did that happen? God, I friends of somebody.
Maybe somebody changed hands.
I think the word name and words too expensive was probably it.
Yeah, Huey Lewis was still out touring Sport or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So love the first one. I love the setup. I think Doc and Marty, you know, when you look back, I mean, you read so many things about Michael J. Fox wasn't supposed to do the role. It was meant to be Eric Stoltz, and he'd filmed about a third of the film. But
and there's clips of it.
Yeah. It was the role he was meant to do. When you watch it back, you sort of go, yeah, it was just perfect. Christopher Lloyd is great.
Did you hear what his schedule was? Did you hear what his schedule was for it?
So he was going Back to the Future in the evening.
From 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening doing Family Ties.
Yeah.
Then from 6 in the evening till 2 in the morning doing Back to the Future.
Yeah. That's
bloody hell, hats off to him there.
Yeah. No, I think he's a phenomenal casting as Michael J. Fox. The film is great. The time travel stuff, now we have Endgame, actually holds up. It holds its own. Yes, it's made a mockery of an Endgame, but I still love it. You know, set the benchmark for time travel films. What was that?
Endgame does nicely rip the pee out of it, really. You know, say, what, you're accepting that as the rules for time travel.
Yeah, and that's great. That's how big it was. You know, they hold that up as the benchmark for time travel films.
See, now, one of my favourite time travel, and once again, romantic films, came out before it. I think it was 81 again. I think Christopher Reeves' second major film, Somewhere in Time. and that was kind of one of my favourite films ever.
What's bad about Back to the Future one? What do we think? Because when I was looking at this, I still one of the parts that really galls me actually, and it carried over into the second one, is Crispin Glover, because I mean, when you look at it now, how badly does he overact? And I was quite pleased that he fell out with the studio when they were making 2, because he does overact.
Like, yes, but it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I figured that's his style and that's the character they were going for.
He just goes ultra geek, very twitchy, sort of nerdy thing on it. Could be a serial killer, could be a nice guy. You're not quite sure. It works character.
Yeah, that's the way I'd look at it. It's the character. I mean, would you want to sit next to him in the pub? No. Is he entertaining us? Is he entertaining as somebody's eccentric dad? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah. I love the casting of Jimmy from Superman, neatly as Marty's older brother. I like that. And I'm okay with that.
He was in the Spielberg other produced one, wasn't he? Was it Hard Day's Night?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand.
Yeah, I want to hold your hand. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, love. I thought it was a great casting. I honestly, Back to the Future, the first one was held up there for years as one of my favourite films. Just fantastic. So if we talk about that first one, and we I think we all agree it is top notch. We need to talk about 2 and where it sort of fell off a little bit. So Mark, you've already mentioned the Elizabeth Shue bit and the bad wig.
Yeah. I'll stake my claim on the bad wig Elizabeth Shue, future forming around her while she's left on a porch after just appearing for about 5 minutes at the beginning of the movie. You need to come with me to save your children. Why is that? I don't know. I'm going to knock you out in a minute with some gas because you're panicking about something. Then you can wake up all the way through, see the bit in the future, get zapped out again.
Yeah.
No, but I was actually reading about her recasting earlier on while I was watching it. While I was watching it live. But it was actually a really sad reason why she was recast. Claudia Wells' mom was dying of cancer and she went to take care of her.
Yeah. It just gave business and did what really all of us should do. Just go to look after your parents instead. Just give up everything that you're doing for yourself.
Yeah. So
to be fair to Claudia Wells, though, she turns up for fan conventions. He's part of it. Yeah. I don't think it was a bad parting of the ways, unlike Crispin Glover, who tried to get half the money for the. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right there. And I think I'm not 100% sure on this. I think she did some small voice role in the Telltale Games. Do you remember they did it in the
episode? Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Back to the Future. Really? But I think she did a little bit in that.
Was it when I can't remember, the long-haired Justin guy who got accused of all sorts of sexual shenanigans used to do his Bringing Back People show, and I'm sure he did like
Justin
Lee Collins.
That's the one.
Yeah. Bring Back to the Future.
Everyone here.
Yeah, there we go. We're back.
Cool.
Sorry, we were talking about Justin Lee Collins.
Yeah.
Here's Dave.
That's all right. So, yeah, Justin Lee Collins did bring Back to the Future, and Claudia Wells was going to be in that, wasn't she? Or was in it and sort of said why she'd gone. So, yeah.
God damn it. My memory has worked. Amazing considering what I've done to my mind over the years.
in terms of the second one as well, I'm not overly keen on the bits in the future which feel a little bit hammed up, like Marty McFly dressed as his daughter. They're a little bit cringy looking back. Michael J. Fox dressed as his daughter. Sorry, yeah.
I don't know. I think it was just keeping a theme going from the previous one and kind of fiddling about with ages and stuff like that. And I mean, again, I was reading while I was watching, but they were like, I think it was Bob Gale said, we've no idea what's coming in the future, so we're just gonna have some fun with it. I mean, he said stuff like flying cars. It's like, well, you full well there's not going to be flying cars in 2015. It's like, but
well, you say that. I was expecting those flying cars. I was quite disappointed.
And
When
hoverboard.
they didn't appear, I was miffed.
you can get them, but they look ridiculous.
I want a hoverboard as well.
They have a like wings spread out from the car. They fold out and then they spread out. So you still need a runway. I don't know what speed you need to go at, but yeah, they look very, very similar.
Fold up wings. I've seen that thing.
Yeah, I mean it's not a DeLorean. Let's just leave that there.
The one thing I noticed on what Dave was saying, like originally about them all looking like there's a lot of strong male genes in this movie, full stop, because everyone does look like their original acting counterpart, be it male, female, whatever. It's
yeah,
that's some strong genetics right there.
I love how they expanded Biff's character with being the granddad, and then Griff. As much, and I talked about overacting. I quite like that gang were a bit naff. I'm being really harsh. I love these films.
I bet Ronan's seen who else is in the gang.
Yeah.
Ian, Billy Zane. Fantastic.
Yeah. For me, the thing with the gang is just they're so goofy. Like they're about as menacing as the T-Birds in Grease.
Completely hams it up. Completely. You see him like going stairways and just cracking up.
Yeah.
Stuff.
What
I loved in the second though as well is you've got Biff Tannen basically playing Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that was a very deliberate part on the writers. They intentionally did that. And I mean, this is obviously 80s Donald Trump, and obviously we're just getting a better look at that now. And yeah, so yeah, it's 100% based on Donald Trump. That's literally what they had in mind when they were writing the part of Rich Biff Tannen.
The tiny hands of Trump.
But I think for me, the difficulty I had, and when I was again in my rewatching in terms of thinking of it in terms of ranking, for me, where two kind of fell down is trying to cram so much in. So whereas the first film focused very much on 1955, and the third film focused very much on 1885, the second film crams in 2015 to alternative to 1985 to 1955, and it's trying to give equal weight to each era.
Yeah,
and it falls short because neither of them are getting enough attention as kind of 1955 did and 1885 did in the films either side. So I think it was just trying to cram in too much. And that, like, I don't want to criticize that too much because it's a fantastic story. It's a great way to go. I love the idea where they went to the future and this thing happened and it changed the past, created an alternative timeline. Love that. Then they had to go back further in the past to fix that. Love that. But it was just trying to tell that story in such a short frame of time. To me, that's what killed it, and that's why it fell over. I'd love to believe that there's like a 3.5 or a 4-hour cut somewhere that gives each of those eras more time to make it less crammed and give each era a bit more room to breathe. I'd love to believe that, but
it's like when Biff the granddad, the character, sort of when he dies at the end, they reckon they cut that so quickly and everything because they did have a shot originally where they had him going to fading out of time. Basically, he had gone back by giving his younger self the almanac. He had changed time to the point that he was fading then out of time, but they cut that out of it. So there are extra bits floating around out there.
I think where it struggles with for me, and I love it, so you know I'm clutching at straws. I think you're right, Ronan. I think it's pacing. So sort of starts off okay, excites a little bit, calms. That last third, really, they're trying to do so much. Right, we need to go back to 1955 to get the almanac. to get it from Biff. Oh yeah, I'm locked in the house, so now I need to do something else. Oh, just to throw it in, Doc's got a problem with the car. They can't see each other in the past. Oh,
Yeah.
there's so much going on.
1985B. Which one
Yeah.
are we going to go?
Yeah.
We've got to sort it out.
When
back
they
to
go back to 1955, it goes, the pace really ups, and it sort of becomes disjointed, and it sort of loses some of its balance, if I'm being really critical of it.
It gets pure Benny Hill. Like, the Benny Hill music should have been playing right through the third act.
And then
I think that when you rewatch this thing, it was kind of crap Chris Nolan.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's his inspiration from.
Oh, don't say those words, Mart. No, I think that sort of happens. And that's why I think I like the third one so much, because you go into Back to the Future 3, you just told, I've come back from the future, Doc. He passes out, and there's this gorgeous piece of music as we slowly go back to Doc's house. And, you know, to tell him that he's come back from the future. I think that's great. I think it's brilliant. You know, and then the Howdy Doody time comes on. I love that. I love the third one. I always thought for years that number 3 was my favourite, because I think the pacing's right, the structure's right. Yes, it's got the same story. It's a photograph, it's a tombstone, or it's a book. You know, choose your item that you've got a problem with. You know, but so what? That's great. What was that?
Or the letter that he takes back originally, where it changes.
Yeah.
I've got to admit, the third was probably my least favourite for a couple of years, and then I grew up, and it suddenly jumped a spot.
Yeah, I would say after, again, because I was watching them on the trot. I think because because as we just discussed, like 2 was so fast paced, especially that third act. Like 3 is just a welcome break if you're doing a binge watch of them. Like it's like, oh, I can breathe now, I can relax, and I can take in some of what's going on.
Yeah. 3 also has my favourite use of the lines. It's Strickland's deputy that's with him, or one of the marshals that's with him, and Biff ends up falling in the manure right at the end, you know, towards the end of the film. And it's one of my favourite uses of the phrase. One of my favourite uses of the phrase "get him out of that shit." Just the way he says that is wonderful. You know,
you're right.
Right. Get him out of that shit. Just wonderful.
It's also 3 again. They did what they do throughout all of them. Really, they pay off those lovely time travel gags. You know, changing from the teacher's name to Eastwood Golford, all that sort of thing. You know, all the changes that occurred. Wonderful little time traveling gags.
And I think it's such a good bookend to again, looking at it as a story arc, as I mean, it's just such a good ending to it. Like, I think going to the West, I think it was a nice place to go.
Wonderful. And didn't you think it was probably really Doc Brown's strongest performance, really, over all the films? It kind of gave him more meat on his plate, really, than all the others.
Absolutely. It kind of gave him a bit of more human side. They gave him a love interest, and he was, rather than being kind of the outsider in modern Hill Valley, he was just part of the community in old school Hill Valley.
High tech as you get, a blacksmith.
Yeah, good for him.
Fantastic. And I'd be remiss not to mention one thing. That final scene with his weird ass kids, especially that one, just like going,
pointing at his cock,
in his balls,
he's going.
pointing at his dick.
It's just weird.
What was going on there? Has anyone ever found out what was going on there?
I've no idea. That was very strange. You'd have thought that would have hit the cutting room floor. I love the train. The train for me.
Yeah, fantastic.
I remember sat in the cinema.
That was a real full-scale model as well. No CGI, no half-scale, no three-quarter scale. That was full, genuine scale. Fantastic.
I remember being sat in the cinema going, oh, what's going to happen, you know? And Marty and Jennifer are walking along the train tracks, and he picks the photograph up and just goes, I'm never going to see him again. Thank you, Mart. And then the train arrives, and just that, what the hell? And the level crossing comes down. You're like, what's going on? And then it's that. Yeah. I love that. I think that's great. Yeah. I remember sitting back going, that is how you tie up the loose ends. That's how you finish it properly.
Wonderful.
Right.
Let's cut back to like the end of the first one. It's beautiful.
It was terrific.
We finished the story, but there could be a whole new bunch of stories.
Yeah.
But we won't.
Well, I mean, that's what I was saying about how this is, you know, this was always, to me, and I've always considered it as one big story.
Yeah. Because
it does have those endings that literally lead to the next one, except the last one, because that's it. End of the line.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think for me,
except we're going to take off in this time traveling train with my family.
Yeah. I think for me, if we remove the cartoon series, which was just a license to print money and whatever and all that, if we just take the 3 films as they are, I think they're great. I think in terms of ranking it, so if we were going to do our exercise again, Mark, that we did the other night with Indy, I think it's. Yeah.
I think there's a lot in this one.
I think the number one has to be number one.
Number one.
Yeah. Are we all agreed on that? Anybody disagree with that can comment or call us what they like.
When you've got a movie that's near perfect, as that said, you've got one shoddy sort of, you know, piece of CGI, and that's it. And that was just because it was rushed. Because what was it? They decided to change the date from like middle of August to beginning of July because they saw it and thought, hold on, this should be a summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
And it's just because of one rush piece of CGI. That's all you can really point at it.
Yeah.
They made an incestuous time traveling action comedy sci-fi that worked really well, made a shed load of cash, and made stars out of all the people in it. I mean, said up to that point, Michael J. Fox was just doing Family Ties.
Yeah.
Had he done Teen Wolf, I think, maybe then? And they waited then till afterwards to release it.
Yeah.
But that was it, really. He wasn't a movie star. This film made him a movie star, and he made a movie fantastic.
He always said he didn't know how Teen Wolf did the money that it did. He didn't quite understand that. He was like, what?
On the back of this, we all know how. I went to the shop on the back of this. I went to the Lee Pit in Cradley to go see it on the back of this.
One of the things we didn't mention was the car. So, look, if I had the money, I would have a DeLorean tomorrow, and I would soup it up and put a flux capacitor
in the brakes and everything, and put some proper engineering in there.
I would just do that.
Yeah. Actually, I'd make it an electric car.
Yeah, I
think you can get them, but they're obviously obnoxiously expensive.
Ridiculous. And aren't they based on like a Cortina and all that, and drum brakes and things that are really just awful?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a classic case of, you know, cheap as shit, but my God, make it look cool.
Yeah, make it look like a UFO, which was what the whole thing was based off. Was it like, as Ronan will know, and probably Dave as well, checking out, Ford offered them 75 grand apparently to use a Mustang. I mean, it was the crap 80s Mustang, which didn't look good, rather than the 60s classic ones. But they offered them 75 grand, a large amount of money at the time, to use it. And they just turned around and said, basically, sod off, Doc Brown won't be using a Ford Mustang.
I love.
They wanted that scene, that page off the cover of like the UFO, the UFO novel that they were using.
Yeah.
I love the car. I just think it's great. Sorry. So, number one, Back to the Future is number one.
Yes.
And then
Uno.
And then Part 3 in second place. It is for me.
That's what
I'd agree. I'd agree.
And being very picky because I love it anyway. But number 2 in third place purely because of the little gripes and niggles and the fast pace at the end.
There's no real bad stuff here. You know, you can say, well, we're ranking them 1, 2, 3 because we're ranking them. That's just what we're doing.
Yeah.
But realistically, you can quite happily, as Ronan has done over the past couple of days, sit down and watch all 3 of these and not have a bad time with any of them.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and I have to get out my my Back to the Future Special Edition trilogy. Available. This one's in the popular Blu-ray format, Martin. You'll be pleased to know.
Oh, beautiful.
And this has got those scenes in it with where you see Biff in 2015, and they try and figure out why he was in pain. They think that Jennifer shot him, and that was why he was being erased from existence. But for pacing, they didn't want to explain it. They didn't want to explain it, so they trimmed the scene out, and that's why you don't see him fade into out of existence at the end of that. He just sort of goes in a bit of pain and breaks the cane. But yeah, he'd been shot. So yeah, 1, 3, 2 makes sense. I'm sure people will disagree. I think that's great.
At one point, the recent deep fake, I don't think it's done what they expected it to do. It's raised a lot of interest in it, but it's still ultimately come out as everyone going, you know what, these are pretty much perfect as is. Why bother in them?
Agreed. I mean, I'm nervous for when Bob Gale does die. Obviously, he has got the final say, and people are respecting that now. Will his estate, if they're offered enough money? Makes me nervous. Hopefully, I'll be too old to care when it does happen. We'll see.
It's one of those where, look, they ruined Ghostbusters for us. And you know, Ghostbusters 2 made an attempt to do that.
The new Ghostbusters.
Yeah, they can't do to Back to the Future that they did with Ghostbusters. It's one of those. It needs to be left alone. It's perfect. Leave it alone. It doesn't need to be better.
Remakes and reboots that have happened. You can say that about so many of them. Like, you think they would have learned from RoboCop that, you know, actually it's okay to leave shit alone. No, they made it bloody awful. They did it with Ghostbusters, and I mean, I'm sure there's more that I can't think of right now.
When they recently sort of threatened, promised to have a look at Princess Bride, you know, there's a certain amount, when they said about looking at sort of Die Hard, a prequel and things like that, there are certain films that are kind of perfect in the first place. They might have little flaws to them, but as close as you're humanly going to get. Should you really go about trying to remake those just because we've got better technology now to remake films?
I would say no. I mean, it takes away from it. It's the story that was told, and what are you going to do? Keep retelling the same stories to match the technology of the time?
You Wizard of Oz, you could go back and make that look amazing now. Would it be better than the original? No, I'd pretty much bet it wouldn't.
No, agreed.
There's just some films that need to be left alone, and for me, this is a trilogy of films that they need to go. It was done. It was great. It took great money, great cast. They would ruin it if they, I mean that deep fake for me. I stood there and went, no, it's never going to work. As much as I love those guys for what they did in the MCU, keep them as far away from my Back to the Future as possible.
Yeah,
it did. They'd be good in a film together though, doing something. Don't use that property. Make something new for them. They could be great together again.
Yeah, I get that, and you know, they've done Dr. Dolittle. But yeah, the future of Back to the Future is that it has no future. There will be no 4, and I think they should leave it there. And I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
I think if they were going to do anything with it, you'd have to spin it off with a new cast and a new story and everything. You would have to leave what has already happened in place. You couldn't touch what's happened. Don't decry it. You know, don't mess with it at all. Yeah. Leave perfect as perfect. If you want to do something else with it, do something else. Maybe have Christopher Lloyd come in. Maybe have Michael J. Fox have a little cameo sort of thing. But as you've seen from Ghostbusters, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Well, my worry would they would shit all over the memory that is you know 3 perfect films. They don't need to do that. You know, lessons should have been learned from Ghostbusters, RoboCop, et al. And you know, they need to make sure they don't do that again.
I know what I'm saying is don't ever try and reboot it. Don't ever try and remake it. If you're going to do anything, have it as a follow-on sort of thing that is within the world but separate. It's the only
what I would like to see is a follow-up in a comic. I think a comic would work.
Yeah.
Comics always work. It's a good medium.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill and Ted did a series of comics that were pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Smallville, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, they all continued. Charmed, all continued as comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some excellent work as well in them. Some really, really important stories.
Yeah, I think
I like Darkman, which they actually invented as a sort of. It was Sam Raimi because he couldn't get the Shadow and the Batman. He'd made up his own sort of comic character and then actually made it a comic afterwards. Love that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the concept to continue it in another medium, there's nothing wrong with that. They did the cartoon for kids. Actually, was a complete disaster. You know, they've done that Telltale series, which was.
Did they do an actual game with a video as well that you would like put in and play and then just press play at certain points? As there was that thing where sort of games with videos sort of were quite popular.
You know what they did a Back to the Future the ride at Universal Studios. You know, I went on that. That was amazing. When you're a Back to the Future fan, you're going, oh, it was brilliant. I can't believe that's gone. I love that. That was amazing. So
they appear in a video for that, didn't they?
Yeah, it was tremendous. So yeah, I think we've ranked it. We love it, and we all agree it should be untouched. This has been a very pleasant 4Q I Like stuff, Martin, because we've agreed on all points.
We all liked it. There was just varying degrees of liking something. There was no Crystal Skull in this. There was no
there's nothing wrong with Crystal Skull.
Monkeys. There's no Shia LaBeouf.
Oh dear me! Wait until we get to the joys of the likes of the DC universe and Star Wars.
Well, and of course we will be hitting the MC universe in segments. So we've got to start doing. The Iron Man trilogy, do the Hulks, follow it on, do Thor's, Captain America's, Avengers, break them down.
There's an infographic online that details it breaks down the films that represent each character's story arc, which I think is a really interesting way to look at it. So like even though Black Widow hasn't had her own movie out yet, it kind of kind of points out
the Iron Man.
Start with Iron Man 2 and going through the Avengers ones and Civil War, and Hulk as well.
Captain America Winter Soldier was almost her sort of co-star.
Yeah, so I'll see if I can dig that out.
Cool. So in terms of Back to the Future,
I've gone down the rabbit hole a few times with this.
So in terms of the Back to the Future, we've agreed it's all good. We won't touch it. I'm sure people may disagree, but I think they're great. I think they're great films, great cast, great storyline, great music, fantastic time travel, making it seem like it all makes sense. You know, and I know we know somebody who loves time travel movies, don't we, Martin?
We know somebody who really loves time travel movies and hates Looper.
Yes, we have to do a Looper special and get Munt in and give him Munt's moments of madness where he can talk about how much he hates Looper.
We'll maybe throw in like a time travel special sometime where we'll just select like so many time travel movies and just make the various time travel movies and rank those, and we'll let him just rant away. It'll probably have to be over 2 videos just for the amount of rant you'll want to do. Yeah. That one, he hates Looper.
So, in terms of Back to the Future, we will end this particular episode of 4Q. I've enjoyed it, and we will wait to the next one. We've got lots to look forward to, so I'm sure we'll have many a disagreements to come. But that was quite pleasant tonight.
Hold on a minute. What is it? Great Scott, Dave! You've got to come back with me. Back to the Future.